I'll just give a brief indication. If I'm lying, they must just phone in and say you're lying. When we play SuperSport, we had to intervene. I had to get about 6 players. Go ask Mototo, ask Nyatama. I'm the one who pressed and said, guys, we can't put the game into disrepute like this. We have to honor the fixture.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Komphela is going to be sitting with us for the hour. We're going to be speaking all things Steve. We're going to be speaking all things the DStv Premiership, and perhaps they'll even touch on his thoughts on Bafana and AFCON. But he's here. So let's have a chat with Steve Komphela. You remember when we spoke to an outgoing coach at Swallows before? There's a certain pattern that I'm seeing, but I can't be the forerunner on this. I need to let Steve come in and tell his story, because I do want to know about Moroka Swallows as a football club and its administration, but I also want to know about his time there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All of it to be laid out. Welcome to it. I look forward to being with you for the next hour. It's not just a show led by myself on the air. I'm the only person you're hearing, but trust me, our producer, Timothy Maranda, puts in so much work. Our tech producer, Malcolm Glovu, he is always on a point. Our tech imaging by Tabonkwala, I call him the genius. And of course, social media, all about Biso Snaps there. Thank you for choosing us and joining us for this hour. 7 o'clock, Faith comes in and takes over the talk slot. Steve Komphela joins us. I call him Big Brother. Big Bro, are you well? Malcolm is giving him instructions. He's trying to figure it out.
Don't worry, I can handle all the pressure. The pressure.
I believe that.
The pressure of handling your headsets and mics and all that should be much easier than handling a pressure of being underneath 90,000 people and screaming at you.
Yeah, no, you've been there.
You have to, and you have to stay calm. There's one thing that I believe, thank you so much for having me, and good evening to the listeners. There's one thing that I believe in. Under pressure, you gotta be calm, because in the midst of chaos, without calmness comes danger.
But then, because you say that, when you say 90,000 being under you and you speak of this danger, the picture that appears in my head is Mapita.
Yep.
The last Chiefs game.
Yes.
You know, yes. I saw you looked calm, there was imminent danger.
Umandla likes complaining about me. He says I'm the kind of species where the house is on fire, everybody else is running out and throwing themselves out of the window, and I'm looking for the nearest door to go in, almost like marriage.
You didn't feel in danger in that moment?
I did. But there are moments where danger is danger when the threshold is still big. But when there's no any other option, the threshold is thin, thin that you have no option. It is no more danger. You have to confront. Let me cite an example. Here I am. I take a bone, I give it to a Chihuahua, small useless dog.
Yeah.
And then I put this dog under pressure by the corner, and I'm looking to get my bone back. I'm trying to claim back what's mine. Ask me what's going to happen with me. That Chihuahua will bite my fingers. Very soon I'll be bleeding. And True. It was not a question of the Chihuahua being in danger, but it was about survival. And at that moment in my bid and my opinion, and something very strange happened. And I've got 2 books in my iPad, but the day I pass on, I just wish my daughters will access these books and maybe make money from them if I have not printed them. Done, dusted, printed.
These are books on your life.
Yes.
On your experiences.
Yeah, one of them is more of my biography, experiences, my upbringing, going to Turkey.
Oh, I can't wait.
The troubles in Turkey, coming back, troubles in South Africa, setbacks, comebacks, strength, weakness. Then the second one is about self-help. It's more of a manual, like one book, The Here and Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle, yeah.
This guy...
It's an amazing book, by the way. If you ever want to put something on your reading list, that is a book you put on your reading list.
Now I'm saying to everybody, there's people, millions, listening to you as is. And in as much as they're listening, I doubt how many of them were aware that they are using the hearing sense. There's others who are actually, they are on their water now, or somebody's biting a pie or biting a banana. They are even unaware that they are about to taste a banana.
Another sense.
Yeah, senses. You got a beautiful car, amazing machine. When you reverse, you put a reverse gear. As you're about to bump the drum behind you or somebody, it gives you message. Beep, beep, beep. It's got senses. It senses. Those sensors are nothing else but senses. Then they say that car has intelligence. Humans have been created, given 5 senses to gather intelligence. Now, that book says to you, are you aware of where you at? Your level of awareness will then give you the opportunity to make choices. And the type of choices you make are from the environment and how you perceive and gather environment and rationalize in your brain. At the back of awareness, at the back of making choices comes repercussion. I've been aware of
we are a direct result of the choices we make.
Consequence.
Yeah.
Now, this is where you are held liable for the choices you make because of your perception of life, which is why I say I would wish to perceive life more positively, because how you perceive life, your perception of life is through hearing, seeing, touching, and all those. Even if something is bad, handle it with a positive feel, because how you start feeling that filters to how you start thinking about it, and how you start thinking about that escalates you to how you feel about it, and how you feel determines how you're going to act and behave. Now, if you want to spiral back from I want to be happy, feel good, be happy, now your level of happiness or the trigger to your happiness is more to the emotions that are positive. And the trigger to positive emotions takes you back to positive thoughts. And a trigger to positive thoughts takes you back to sensing. Because as soon as you sense via all 5 senses, whatever registry goes in your head then starts to develop some sorts of thoughts and thinking. Then those who know better than you and I, they say you are what you think. You are what you eat. In this book, Kuneni chapter where I spoke of I said I is not an alphabet. In my opinion, I is a word. Because whatever comes after I am hungry defines what I am. I am black. It's not just a simple letter, it's a word. So I'm saying in that book, be very attentive to anyone who uses the word I. What comes after that? Because that is a definition of who they are. I is a very big word, not an
defining.
Alphabet. It's a definitive one, because if I say, I just said it, if I say, then you pay interest in if you say what, Steve?
Because whatever you say next
defines everything
that is you.
So we have to be it moves very close to what you say about yourself manifests.
There's a nakedness that once you've decided you're writing a book, you've got to offer the audience.
Yeah.
There's a truth and nakedness that you've got to give to others, that you have to open up about things that you might not necessarily, a private person such as yourself.
Exactly.
Are you ready to be naked? Because I've heard many stories about Turkey.
Yep.
And how you left Turkey and the troubles in Turkey, but
exactly.
I don't know what's true or not.
It's that it is here. Now, nakedness is nothing else but vulnerability.
100%.
If Andile Ncube, with so much power and influence, is so selfish and egoistic that he hides his vulnerability, Andile Ncube has denied the millions who would have drawn inspiration from his vulnerability to accept vulnerability as strength. The minute you accept that, you know what, I got this weakness, that's your strength. Because recognition of a particular vulnerability, it is acceptance of existence of such and emancipation to a better platform. If I'm in a strong relationship, I'm at a very good position. I'll cite an example. And I've got this person that maybe you live with, he's a partner of yours. And at some point you feel like I'm vulnerable. This relationship is taking me up and down. I'm so vulnerable. You shall forever be in pain up until you resolve to accept such vulnerability. And in Buddha, The Buddhists will tell you, exit from struggle to emancipation starts with acceptance. The minute I accept circumstances as they are, then I have to make a choice to say, you know what? Let me rather prepare my heaven before I jump out of hell. That's a resolution because you have accepted. The minute you accept circumstances, you say, okay, what are the options? Then it takes you back to the choices. When you start talking to yourself, that conversation with yourself, there's nothing as powerful as a conversation with yourself. That one-on-one with yourself is the ultimate.
It's 21 after the hour 6. Steve is here. We're just having a conversation, really. And I can't wait for you to take out of it not just football, but life, because that's what that was. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll carry on and even bring it to the now. A lot of us know that it's still mind-boggling that you were not part of that 96 team. You were captain 94. You led us into emancipation. You led us into the most difficult part, those 4x4s. You were there. You stood in the fire. 96, you were not there, Steve.
It's crazy. I started playing for Bafana from the first match when he played Cameroon in Durban.
Yeah.
When Doggy scored a penalty.
Yeah.
We had another match in Johannesburg. Was it Cape Town as well? At the beginning of that team. Then, I'm sure just shortly after that, Ncube was supposed to go for his wedding and all that. And then I became captain for South Africa. I captained South Africa from then up until 1995. I think we played Zambia in a 4-nation tournament. In January, February, we were playing AFCON. Andile, I was the only player who was left out of that squad. You'll tell me how is a youngster Steve supposed to feel that? I had to be strong. I remember going.
So the entire squad was kept.
Everybody was kept. Yeah, I was the only player who was left out of the squad.
So the captain was the only one left. Who was the coach?
It was Clive Parker, the late.
So he left you out of everyone.
And these are things that I thank those people. You know, there are moments where you have to thank someone who puts a dagger right through your heart. Because if you can survive the loss of your life, of your breath, that person has taught you how to be strong and measure your breathing at moments where you feel I'm losing blood. And I can't be too anxious because my heart will start pumping too fast. There's going to be more waste of my blood. I got to be calm. I got to be composed. I got to control my current state of vulnerability. And I did that. And I don't know how. I must think whatever energies were in control of my emotions then. I went back to Turkey. I was watching our national team on Eurosport. I remember at some point we had breakfast with my teammates. And I had been hustling to come to South Africa to play matches. And I used to arrange traveling arrangements, Zamachita, who were in Europe and all that. As a captain in Turkey, I would feel in Bari or Switzerland, there is Sizwe and all that. I would coordinate that traveling. There was a lady, Kwasafa, who used to give me the responsibility, more of a team manager, because I could bonga machita organize them. But when it was that time, I was left behind. So these guys were laughing at me. They said, but Nasil Captain Senior, her Zaman Guni Africa Gitmish, Shwanda sen Order Dale sen near. But you had always been going up and down to South Africa. So you are not with the national team. Why? It's a big thing. Intercontinental competitions are big. And I took it on the chin. And I was watching the national team playing and all that. But listen, it went past, it prepared.
But Steve, do you know why? Today? Did you ever ask why?
If I don't understand it, I don't ask. I accept it as a way of being put to growth path. Because there are certain things God will put you through you'll never understand.
He's late now. And he was phenomenal with the team.
Yeah.
But did you ever have a conversation with Clive?
I didn't. There are certain things you don't like to stay a hornet's nest, man. You leave bees there, because I need to start shaking the nest of the bees there. But in all honesty, there are theories in my mind, and there's understanding which I have in the book as well, that you look at scenarios. Okay, this guy was left out of the team, who was brought into the team. Someone who had never played. And I loved all my teammates, and I loved all my South African brothers who were national teams then. Then Andrew Tucker came in. Okay, no problem. And then he didn't play, no problem. And who then becomes captain? This is slightly controversial. I must put it with a very light tone so that it must not feel revengeful. Nil, then Nil Tovi becomes captain.
Not vindictive, not to be vindictive.
No, not
but
at all.
It's a story of what happened.
And then you look at it again, you're saying as a sports person, anything to do with maybe because Clive was into Puma and then Neil was into Puma, did I suffer? Sometimes there are certain battles that you inherit. There's enemies you inherit without knowing. The fact that you are my friend, I have a lot of enemies. That you are my friend, my enemies are your enemies too. That's inheritance. So I ask myself such questions. The other one, my life has not been easy, which is why I think it made me the strong person who can handle anything. At some point, I say to my players, and this example is devastating and sometimes could go to an extent, Steve, you can't say that. I say to players, listen, you got to be at a point where you say, you are at training, you receive a call, and they say to you, listen, house burned down. All people who were inside the house, they are in ashes. And as a coach, you have to continue the training session for 1.5 hours.
My mother says that all the time.
And then after 1.5 hours, you drive home, you go check. And upon arrival, don't be hysteric. You arrive, paramedics, everybody, fire departments. You say, okay, any survivors? Say, Steve? No, everybody who was in this house is gone. Okay. What's the next line? Immediately get to the next exit. That, okay, what's the procedure now? Under circumstances, post-mortem, whatever protocols, Papa. I must then make arrangements. Is it a mass funeral? Okay, what was in my partner's will? What did the kids think and all that? Immediately go there. Because listen, if you collapse on your knees and then bury your head in the sand, how does it's not going to help? In 2002, we went to Mali. Quarterfinal Mali. It was Carlos Queiroz, Trot Moloto, myself and all those. No, Roger Desai.
Yeah.
We couldn't make it in the quarterfinals. We got knocked out by Mali. Got back to South Africa. Then there was a big fabricated story that there was division in the national team. There was racism and all that. We were even called, Utata had to intervene and all that. In 2002, because there was AFCON, and then there was also the World Cup in Korea, Japan. Ask me, everybody else who was with the national team, who qualified South Africa? We qualified South Africa for the World Cup and AFCON. We only saw the AFCON. Did I see the World Cup? No. And I was the only one who did not see the World Cup. And then I'm smiling at it again. I'm saying, Lord God, your lessons are just so, they are so heavy for me, but I'll put it on my chest. You know, they left for Korea, Japan. They were in South Korea. When they entered the pitch for inspection, I did not only have accreditation for the dressing room and the pitch, I had all access. I had gone there through ETV.
As a broadcaster.
As a broadcaster. Now, God will deny you a small window, but God will grant you a huge room. But you have to understand where He's driving you towards. And if you refuse to take the steps that He's pushing you towards, and sometimes He cannot be, He's not too soft, and His lessons can be aggressive, and sometimes can be devastating and terrifying. And when He puts you through that, our people must just say, okay, I'm going through this, I'm growing through this, and it will make me a better person. But all this is documented in this beautiful book. But it is narrated so nice that even the one who was a perpetrator, or the one who was involved in the not so good an action towards me, I put it in a way that their kids must read and understand that it could have been dealt with differently. Then I was at SAFA. I worked at SAFA and all that. Then there was a project that all coaches at a particular level must be granted the opportunity to go to Germany for qualification. Everybody within the federation went. And some of my beautiful friends and colleagues outside the federation went to Germany. And I was the only one who didn't go to Germany for qualification. And I said, but how is this working? And I'm saying, but why is it that I'm the one? But I said, but Steve, if not you, my friend.
Then who?
Then who, man? And God always gives all these battles that are terrifying to the ones.
Strongest soldiers.
I'm not the strongest soldier, but maybe the one who understands that somebody has to do it. And if not me, then who? I didn't go to Germany. Then they went and came back and all that. But ultimately, we got the same qualification, and I even got a better qualification. I don't expect any freebies in my life. As I said, have no expectations, you'll have no disappointments. Because if you seek justice, you'll get no justice from anyone because they themselves are seeking justice. Be content.
Let's speak about justice. I need to bring it to the here and now because the time has just disappeared.
It's flying.
But as soon as you're ready with that book,
Yes,
I'd
sir.
love a pre-copy to read it so that we can
I
sit
can
here.
give you the manuscript.
Please, so that I can sit here and ask you questions based on what I know.
Yes, Dad.
I would love it.
And
I don't believe.
Do you know that in Turkey I owned some nice businesses?
I don't want to, Steve, no, don't do this.
Okay.
Don't take away our next conversation.
Okay. I'll
Because
listen to
hence
you.
I threw it at the top, and I said, I know there was a lot in Turkey.
Yeah.
I know the departure from Turkey wasn't great, and I know the start over in South Africa.
There you go.
But it's a story, Timmy. Thursday throwbacks. Let's invite Steve and let's speak about that. So we'll have that.
So you want me to bring the book in front without having get?
If we can take one chapter from it, it's entice. I just want that story, the story
there's
of
another
Turkey.
chapter about the burdens and blessings are cousins. There's a chapter that talks to the glitz, the glamour of all these top athletes, what they go through when they sign contracts and all that, and what happens when they get that message that, excuse me, you have come to the end of the road. That the next day, when you put an alarm, I must wake up at 6 because I must prepare, take a shower, I'm going to training. But the night before that day, the schedule and the alarm is dependent on you and your program. There's no team manager. There's no coach.
For the first time in your life, it's all on you.
And then tell me, how do those people going to cope when the rest of their 20, 30 years life had been handled by somebody else? And from 30 up until 70, for 40 years, they must then take charge. And they had never been in charge in their lives.
Steve, 19th of February,
Yes, sir.
2024.
Yes, sir.
Media release,
Yes, sir.
Moroka Swallows.
Okay.
It is titled, Moroka Swallows Football Club and Coach Steve agree to part ways on an amicable term. It is something I say here all the time.
Okay.
I've even defined the word amicable. And I don't believe much in it.
Okay.
It says you are amicable. And then I read again today a letter. Because it wasn't a statement, it wasn't a press release, it was a letter.
Yes.
And I say it was a letter because it was titled to Moroka Swallows staff and players.
That was from
There was even a quote
Yes.
to say, to send a letter in a good way to go somewhere without moving anything but your heart. A quote I know very well from Felix Theroux, who is the American author. You know, he's the same man that gave us mistakes are the usual bridge between inexperience and wisdom.
If you really want to hear something that is striking and makes you wonder and think, open the mouth of a person who is in pain.
Are you in pain?
Philosophers, I'm not in pain, but circumstances are so complex and so dire that you feel I gotta still remain calm, composed, be logical, but in all honesty, it's hitting. Not because it's hitting me, but because there's a whole lot of other people who are suffering because of this. To me, Andile, when I get criticized, when people say stuff and all that doesn't hurt me, it only hurts when I think, Uncle Sam, Unomalangu, Unombuiselo, Unokolo, what are they going to say? What are my daughters? The pain that is felt by others pains me more than the pain that I own. Now, when I look at Moroka Swallows, the number of players who lose, they lost bread, they lost earnings, they I don't know where they at, and I owe those guys. If I'm a true leader and not faking leadership, when they go through such, it should pain me so much to say, let me also be part of the suffering. What beauty of a meal when you're having it alone, when the rest of the others are starving. The beauty of a meal is when you share it with someone who cannot afford, and you don't hold them to the taste and tell them that, you see, I brought you around a hell of a beautiful table, cutlery, this and that. No, You're dining with someone with t-shirts is dabukile and you say, hey, come, let's have a bread here. You know how nice that meal is? Because then you say to that person, you are worthy this table. It's only material, man. We can never be attached to it. So it pains me, man, when I see the players going through that. And I had warned Elasto points about this. And I think sometimes Elasto lacks the understanding that before being professional, there's a person behind the professional. And the people are no numbers. It got so difficult to make him understand that. And the suffering that I see at Solos, I think at some point he must look at himself and ask himself difficult questions and say, what is it that I could have done better? And that should not have happened at Moroka Solos. And when you look back and go to FCAK as well, he was there. And it is continuing. I am also appealing to him. Listen, I don't know how many years he's been in South Africa. We've opened doors. We've accepted him. He's a brother. He must look after the brothers back home here. You know how painful it is that when you say that, but I'm in South Africa and I'm being harassed like this. Shouldn't be, man. Just be human before becoming an administrator. Be a person before you become a professional. I'm a person before I'm a coach. Coaching comes after. I must deal with a person before I deal with a professional and a player.
I'm dealing with a person now who's no longer a coach.
Yep.
A statement was issued.
Yep.
But before the statement was issued, you weren't even at training.
Yes.
If I were to be blunt as to say, Steve, why are you not coaching Swallows?
Yep.
In your statement, in your letter, you thank players, you thank staff. You do not speak about management.
I think that was dealt in the release with management. I had to package it nicely. Because the one thing that I had always maintained, but Andile, is to leave positives for the game. And in as much as there's a lot that can be corrected at individual platforms, at the end of the day, it points at the game. I could have come out and claimed, okay, there's a study that was done by Harvard Business School, HBS, on Alex Ferguson. They wanted to know exactly how he managed Man United over so many years. And in one of those questions that he was thrown, there was a response he made that the coach has to be in charge and the coach has to be in control. If when you listen,
if you've read the book, it's in there.
And Alex Ferguson, he was almost ruthless when it came to control and keeping the team healthy. Now, if you are held responsible for what you are not in charge of, it's not right. So if Elasto does everything without consultation, and when as a coach you just have to come in there and coach, is unheard of. The next possible candidate to be nuisance to a coach is a sporting director. The next possible fight in football with a coach is a sporting director. But a team manager cannot then be so, not punitive, but it's the stuff that I can't talk about, man. It's not right. I just wish Swallows the very best. Umusa, no Tiger, no Taylor, Nama player, they must prosper. But Elasto must just change how
I'll tell you what I know, and then because I see you're struggling because there's a soft point for the players more than anything. So I'll tell you what I know. The struggle at Swallows is so bad that even at training, there's struggles for bare necessities for players.
Now imagine, Kemi, I'm coming up at platforms like these, and then I say such. It reflects on me, as a coach. And it is not only people who are interested in the Swallow story. My next boss is listening to me and saying, oh, goodness me. If I hire this guy, the level of confidentiality is... But the struggles we went through at Swallows are so... I had never seen some of the stuff that I saw. Now, I'm trying to come here with you Say, no, man, I'm not. And I must also say thanks to you for being so professional. Some of the stuff you knew, we worked together at SABC, we're doing AFCON. But not even once you asked me. And you kept on going on. Even when I was not going to work, we were still in studio. And at no stage you ever asked me up until this moment. And even at this moment, you find a way to package the question so professionally that it doesn't come across bad. So I'm also trying to package my responses as such, but also trying to say, can we get better?
But here's my thing. If we don't speak about it,
yeah,
are we doing the players that are left there, the staff that are left there, any favors? Because then it remains buried, and the one side of the story that says, no, we're fine here, everything is okay, remains the narrative of Moroka Swallows. Are we doing those players a favor if we do not highlight their play? I mean, already you've said, Witty, it's bad, but what does that mean? As a coach, I've had a coach here before who said, hey, Andile, and something as simple as an ice bath is not provided. We have to put money together as a staff to go buy it and give these players basic needs such as that. Never mind the payment of players and of coaches and of staff that doesn't come as regular as it should come.
Exactly. Well, that one is quite a bigger problem, which I think belongs then to even inside the office. I'm talking about front desk stuff, basic stuff that has to be delivered. If you put a guy at a position, say manage the team, and the guy is not capable or efficient enough, then you have to find a way to remove them. But if you don't remove them and they are there and they continue in their way of doing things, that is anti-progress. And then you ask yourself, but is this guy deliberately doing this or not? Because at some point, there's obedience, there's malicious obedience. But what you see to people, there's a stage where I ended up saying, we're in a team meeting, pre-training meeting. We had meetings every morning. I said to them, guys, I feel so bad that every day I come here and I'm always fighting, moaning and groaning, trying to get things right. I'm sure you guys are saying we have never come across a coach who complains like this. But I'm saying the environment we have created, even by entry in the morning, already there's just complaints, then there's this and that. Now, how do you correct that? Because what I see, which is what I said, I am starting to become nuisance with you. And I am fighting you over things that I want to see make us better.
Like what?
But I'm creating enemies and a lot of inefficiency. There's one case, I'll just give one example. Zininginji. We go to Stellenbosch. The protocols in terms of camp. There has to be a meeting room. That one was just, listen, every time the meeting room would never be set up. I'm asking myself, but this thing does not need money and all that. It's just simple organization. Yeah. A team manager who's efficient, who will say, okay, one long table for 20 people, 2 round tables for technical team, security, and maybe another table for the guy who's transporting us if we had a bus wherever we're going. We are in Stellenbosch. I'm just citing one. There's a million every match, whether it was against Pirates, against Chiefs, SuperSport, Cape Town City, Amazulu, Golden Arrows. There's cases. The one that actually got me saying, "No, man, this can't be." We are at Stellenbosch. We arrive at the hotel, and those who've been at Stellenbosch, we camped there with Mamelodi Sundowns. They've got so many meeting rooms and conferences lab. Even upstairs, they do have. Then it's time for us to go have pre-training meal and a pre-match meal and pre-match meeting. These guys in the hotel, they say, no, we've prepared your stuff in the gym. I'm saying, what? In the gym? Where have you seen that? And you must also understand, there's some sort of an undertone. Because sometimes your skin could be an indicator of how you have to be respected. And I kick it out of the window. So I then said, no, man, what do you mean now? In the gym? Yes, because there's meetings here. The meeting room says, Pama conference, but there's just plenty. And we must have booked in advance. And when we send our booking, it must have requirements that, okay, these are our standard requirements. A meeting room, whatever, pre-match meal, this time and all that, even with our dietary requirements. And then I said, no way. I left the meeting room, went straight in there. They were set up, kune insimbi la, kune machine, gyming and all that. I say, listen, whatever you want is not going to happen. Not like this. Whoever allowed this to be, not here. Because at the end of the day, it's about me in front of the players. That I'm then taking them into the gym for pre-match meal, into the gym for pre-match meeting. I said, this is hogwash. Never. I said never. In no time. These guys reversed. We went up in the same meeting room I had been in when I had visited the same hotel when he played Stellenbosch when I was at Sundowns. Everything was perfect. Projectors were there, everything was there, we could do our work, visuals and all that. And I'm saying, but which manager who's right in their head to put their own team? First, a team manager must love his team like nobody's business. You have to be so jealous that you check even the sneakers. Is the rubber sole white? Are the sneakers clean? But this tracksuit is fading, man. I must give you... Because it is about image. Now, when you have people who don't care about such, it has a lot to do with how they regard themselves, but it reflects on you as well. I couldn't allow. There's many, man. It was just crazy.
There's a sense and a conversation being had, Steve, that says you were let go in the way, unceremoniously in the way that you were let go, because when the strike happened, you were, I don't want to say the leader of it, but an instigator of sort, and therefore management weren't happy with you, and that's why the treatment.
Sam, that would be unfortunate. That would be another Steve, I don't know. And maybe I would go back and say the Super Sport match we played, which is where things started getting tight. I had to intervene, and I have no business, to be talking to authorities. I'm a coach. You can imagine when you move now from a technical department into administrative level, and now you are interacting with executives. There is a way to interact with them, but not when there's an impasse. I'll just give a brief indication. If I'm lying, they must just phone in and say you're lying. When we play Supersport, we had to intervene. I had to get about 6 players. Go ask Mototo, ask Nyatama. I'm the one who pressed and said, guys, we can't put the game into disrepute like this. We have to honor the fixture. I tried my utmost. But Obrasipo was even saying to me, hey, coach, now, all of a sudden, it is me. I'm not that kind of a person. I'll be the first one, in fact, to say to players, you have a duty and a responsibility to do that. But as soon as commitments were made and they were not met, where am I? And then when I came and you are a coach, now if you're a coach and you don't know what's happening, what do you do, Ma'a? There's no communication, there's nothing coming through. What do you do?
Hold it there, because I want to know what you do.
Nothing.
Prescribe, if you may say, where you say, even at your worst, even at your lowest, you disregard how others have treated you and you try to speak kindly of them.
That's it. That's important.
That's coming across now. Is that what you're doing with the Swallows matter?
You have to. In all environments I've worked at, all environments, whether it was at under 17 SAFA, under 20 SAFA, under 23 SAFA, Bafana assistant coach, Bafana head coach, whether it was at Free State Stars, whether it was at Platinum Stars, whether it was at Golden Arrows, Kaiser Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns, Maritzburg United, not even once I ever said anything nasty towards people who put bread on my table. Not that I'm trying to now.
Even ones that struggle to put that bread on the table?
For the number of times they try to put bread on the table, even the attempt to put that dough in the oven, it got bent that you don't get that bread. That should be considered an attempt and a try to find you bread. And I'm still grateful.
Are Swallows' challenges? Because that's all they are.
Yeah,
their challenges, are they all financial? Would you say that, with better finances, things could be better?
I look at it from a business model point of view. There's 3 in football, even in Europe. You have to go the talent route, where you go for talent development, or you go for acquisition, where you buy players, or you go the Ferguson way, portfolio. So if we could have these entities identifying An example is the Free State Stars. I have never seen a team operating Kabra Mike because I stayed there so long.
Yeah.
Obra Mike made it a point that, listen, Steve, I'm going to be very efficient, and we are not a buying team, which is where then it talks to Laba who acquire superstars. Utimena more of almost portfolio, like in Manchester United, Alex Ferguson, where he says, I'm building a team on these 2, 3, 4 players who are strong, and then I'm trying to get abanye eceleni nje. So if you do that, you will survive, but stick to your budget. I think the biggest mistake I committed was a discussion I had with Elasto when I was discussing.
Why is Steve speaking to an Elasto? Why are you not going to a David? Why are you not going to a Panyaza?
He's on a daily. He's there on a daily basis. There's commitments from those above us, the principals. Now you're trying to say to this one who's here, who you know that this guy has got the ability to make or break this thing.
But if he's making my job difficult, if Malcolm here, who controls my button, makes my job difficult, at some point after having spoken to him to a stoop, I'm going to go to the management.
I did that, and I think it's stuff that maybe I did not want to bring forth here. I did that, but I'm trying to say for the benefit, I'm trying to educate this guy about how best to handle this thing. And I'm saying, if you look back at what we went through, we've had cases and settlements that they put a setback on us. We could not get sponsorships for whatever, many other reasons. But come scale down, have a business model that will make you survive, and it is possible. And then I said to him, this is what you can do. Okay. I even made an example. I said, if you have a squad, but keep the squad within a budget. For instance, a 10-cent budget for that squad, and then you break it down in, okay, I'm going to have 5 top players. They will earn 10 cents to those 5. And then I would have mid-section about 10 players who will also share 10 cents. Now, because they are 10, they will get lesser than these ones who are 5, who are sharing 10. And then take the other 10, and then, the 3, and put it to the last group of C. So you are saying, okay, let's say the first 5 share 10. The second 10, they share 10. And then the last group of C shares another 10.
And there's like 20 there because it's less.
It's going to even be lesser. So you keep that. And then you say into the group C, when you break into group B, then you're going to fall into this category.
Yeah.
And you at group B, if you fall into group A, you'll fall into that. You don't manipulate your budget. You stick within your budget. If and when you feel one of the players outside needs to be brought in, at that particular category, you have to remove one. The same happened at Man United. The minute Alex realized that, hey man, Ronaldo, he has to go, or David Beckham, or Ruud van Nistelrooy, let me take him to Real Madrid. Then he says, okay, Cantona, you can go, Berbatov, you come in. So that's how. Now, if you have such a structure, it will work. I sold that idea to him. I don't know what he did with it.
So Swallows were overstretched in terms of their budget. They had more players than they had money for it.
And apart from that, my understanding is that already moving into that year, you got in with difficulties financially. And then on top of that, you're trying to develop a squad that is strong as is, and you also put more. So you are literally exploding and moving the boundaries of your budget, of which the capacity is also weakened. And what happens when you stretch something that is weakened? It breaks. It's logic. So that's the language I was trying to say to Elasto. But little did I know that he doesn't understand. In fact, what he did, he tried doing exactly what I was advising him to do far too quickly. Because in everything that you do in your life, if you copy somebody's strategy, that strategy has timelines and time frames. You can do what? But the most important is when to do that. Because if you do what at the wrong time, whatever you copied is going to bomb.
I don't know where the time went, but that's my clock, Steve. Not that. That there is my clock to your left.
I always hear the conversations each time. Okay. You know what I was going to say. And God bless you.
I appreciate you, big brother. And I think we're due a conversation. This was a catch-up. We're due a conversation. Faith?
Hi.
He's an epistemic ambivalent of everything they say soccer players are. The absolute opposite, but yet exactly what they are. It is confusing.
I feel like you need to write a PhD on football. Just so that I think people need a sense of understanding about number one, the business of the game, the theology of the game, but also the mechanics of the game and the way that you're able to. I was listening on my way here, and the way that you're able to articulate even certain instances, I think it's humbling. And if I were you, I'd host masterclasses, but not here, internationally.
Indeed, masterclasses.
Masterclasses.
You know, they say that a mark of intelligence is not saying big words in the most complicated way, but it's being able to break down the most complicated things simply.
Yeah.
And it's a talent you have.
Only if the listeners could know that I'm just between these two giants. I am paralyzed. But thank you so much for the compliment. And I will be listening to you as well. I always do.